may not fully understand it now, but the name I gave you has never been forgotten. Not by me, not by heaven. While you've walked through seasons where even your own voice trembled to speak, I have continued calling you by the name I whispered into your being before the foundations of the world were laid. Others may have spoken over you with names that carried shame, fear, or judgment. The world may have labeled you by your struggles or your silence, but those are not the names I recognize. Those are not the names I answer to when I look at you. I do not see you through the lens of your failures, your delays, or your detours. I see you through the lens of eternal love. The name I wrote over you has never been scratched out. It is not fragile ink, it is not etched in dust. It is carved into my being, into my heart, into the very nature of who I am. And no season, no silence, no wound has changed what I call you. You are still mine, still chosen, still safe. Your name is still safe in my hands. I have seen how often you've looked in the mirror and struggled to recognize the person staring back at you. I've watched as life carved new lines into your face, as disappointments whispered lies into your identity. You've been told too many things about who you are. Some spoken harshly, others implied quietly through rejection, abandonment, or comparison. And over time, you started to believe them. You started to believe that the names others gave you were true. Too broken, too emotional, not strong enough, not lovable, unworthy. You wore these names like armor and like chains, heavy, cold, familiar, but I never called you by those names. From the beginning, I called you by something holy. When I breathed life into you, I didn't just form your body, I formed your identity. I didn't just give you breath, I gave you meaning. And with that meaning came a name. Not simply the one written on earthly records, but the one written in the language of heaven. A name that carries your destiny. A name that holds your true self. The you that is not defined by trauma or timing, but by truth. I see the parts of you that have long been buried. The pieces that you tucked away because you thought they were too sensitive, too soft, too vulnerable for this world. I see how you've hardened yourself just to get through, how you've dimmed your light to avoid judgment, how you've taken on names that kept you safe but slowly suffocated your soul. I see it, and I understand. You've done what you needed to do to survive, but you were not created just to survive. You were made to live fully, anchored, joyful, secure in who you are, and that begins with returning to the name I gave you. The one that holds no shame, the one that holds no pressure, the one that does not rise and fall with your performance, your past or your pain. I am calling you by that name even now, and when I speak it, it doesn't just echo in the heavens. It begins to rise within you. You can feel it, can't you? That stirring in your chest? That quiet warmth that makes your eyes well up? Not because you're weak, but because you're finally remembering something true. This name isn't something you have to earn back. It was never taken away from you. The noise of life just made it harder to hear. But I've never stopped saying it. In your silence, I spoke it. In your lowest moments, I whispered it over your soul while you slept. When you felt like a stranger to yourself, I saw the original blueprint, and I never once forgot who you are, not even for a second. I know you've been holding yourself together for so long that the idea of letting go, even to rest, feels terrifying. But hear me, child. I'm not asking you to fall apart. I'm asking you to come apart from the lies that never belonged to you. I'm asking you to let me unravel the false names, the false identities, the false strength that has kept you distant from the truth of your belovedness. There is a difference between being strong and being numb. I never asked you to numb your heart. I asked you to trust me with it. You are not too far from who you used to be. You are not lost to me. You are not forgotten in my kingdom. And you are certainly not defined by your delays. I do not measure you by how quickly you heal or how well you perform. I hold you with compassion. I call you with mercy. I speak to you with a voice that is not impatient, but persistent, because I will never stop reaching for you. Even now, I hold your name in my hands, and I do not tremble, I do not hesitate, I do not rethink my decision. I knew what I was doing when I formed you. I knew what would happen in your life, and I still called you mine. Nothing surprises me. Nothing you've been through has disqualified you. If anything, it has made room for even greater grace. The wounds you think make you less valuable, I see them, and I still choose you. I don't choose you despite them. I choose you knowing them fully. Let me remind you, as only your Creator can, you are not too late. You're not too far gone. You're not missing anything essential. The person you think you have to become in order to be loved, I never required that of you. I loved you at your lowest. I loved you at your loneliest. I loved you when you didn't love yourself. And I still do. Come back to the name I gave you. Come back to the rhythm of being known, not for what you do, but for who you are. You are not just useful, you are beautiful. Not just productive, you are precious. Not just a soul among many. You're a story I am still writing. A melody I am still singing, and that song is not over. Let my words strip away the names that no longer serve you. Let my presence heal the identity wounds that kept you small. Let my love be the place where you remember again. Your name is not lost. It is not damaged. It is not buried too deep to be found. Your name is still alive, still holy, still safe in my hands. I know how many times you've wondered if I still see you. Not just your actions, but your heart. I've watched you move through your days with strength on the outside, but questions quietly echoing beneath your breath. Does my voice still reach you? Does my presence still follow you? Do I still call you by the name I once spoke so clearly over your life? The world has grown loud, and I understand how the noise made it hard to hear. Me. The silence between your prayers and my answers may have felt like absence, but what you felt was not abandonment. It was stillness, and stillness is not the same as distance. Stillness is where I often do my most tender work. You've mistaken my quiet for disconnection. You've believed that because others forgot you, I must have too. But I never forgot. I never stepped back. I never stopped saying your name. The silence was not me stepping away. It was me coming closer than you realized. I have held you in spaces too sacred for noise, in moments too fragile for words. I was there when your voice trembled, when your thoughts spiraled, when your hope felt too thin to hold. And in every one of those moments I was still speaking, just not in the way you expected. You've been taught to look for me in the miraculous, in the loud deliverance, in the dramatic shift. But I have always moved most faithfully in the small, in the quiet, in the unseen. I do not need applause to work. I do not need attention to love. I simply need you to know I've never let go of the name I gave you. Not when others misnamed you. Not when you misnamed yourself. Not when the heaviness made you feel like you disappeared. Your name, as I speak it, is not rooted in performance. It's rooted in promise. The kind of promise that doesn't dissolve when you doubt, doesn't fade when you fall, doesn't weaken when you're weary. The name I call you by is a name of restoration, not perfection. I don't speak to the image you've tried to maintain. I speak to the part of you that aches to be real again. I call to your softness. I call to the version of you that once knew how to trust without flinching. I call to the part of you that hasn't been ruined by the world, just buried under it. You've been waiting for a clean season, a perfect time, a version of yourself that feels more presentable before you approach me fully. But what if I told you the most sacred access to my presence doesn't come when you're strong? It comes when you're surrendered. When you let yourself fall without pretending to be okay. When you stop managing the tension and let me step into it with you. That's where the healing begins. Not when everything is fixed, but when nothing is hidden. Your name has been spoken in my presence, even when you could no longer pray. Even when your heart was so tired that worship felt like a memory. Even then, I was singing over you. Not in a language of pressure, but in a language of mercy. I've kept your name alive in the atmosphere of heaven while you struggled to feel worthy of even speaking mine. That's how faithful I am. That's how close I've stayed. Do you know what I see when I call your name? I don't see what you failed to finish. I don't see the days you spent numb, trying to escape your own thoughts. I don't see wasted potential or missed opportunities. I see softness that refused to die. I see a soul that has been preserved in the middle of everything that tried to shatter it. I see light that still flickers with hope. I see your desire to try again, even if you don't have the words for it yet. And I honor that desire. I bless it. I draw near to it. You don't need a script to return. You don't need to fix your emotions first. I want your honesty, not your performance. I want the quiet longing beneath your questions. I want the version of you that whispers, I don't know how to do this, but I don't want to be far anymore. That's enough. That has always been enough. I want to hold you where you stopped letting yourself be held. I want to meet you in the places where you closed the door, not because you didn't care, but because it hurt too much to hope again. I want to show you that your name was never dependent on your success, that even when you questioned your value, I never once did. I want you to hear my voice again, not just in sacred spaces, but in the quiet of your room, in the stillness of your routine, in the unexpected tears that rise without warning. That's me. That's your spirit responding to truth. That's your name waking up again inside my presence. This is not about going back. This is about coming alive. This is about letting joy find you, not because everything is easy, but because I'm in it with you. The kind of joy that's steady, the kind that knows how to hold space, for sorrow too. The kind that anchors, not escapes. The kind that reminds you, I am not what happened to me. I am who God still calls by name. So come slowly if you must. Come with trembling, come uncertain, but come. Come and let me speak your name until it sounds familiar again. Come and let me hold what you've been too scared to feel. Come and let me remind you, no matter how far you've wandered, how long you've been silent, or how many times you've doubted, your name is still safe in my hands. I've watched you scan the world for signs that you still matter. You've looked into the eyes of people hoping to find reflection, validation, belonging. And I know how much it's hurt when they couldn't see you. Not truly. Not the you I made. They saw your effort, your resilience, your usefulness. But too often they missed your heart. They didn't know what it cost you to keep showing up. They didn't hear the voice inside you that kept asking, do I still count? Do I still have a place? You've been asking those questions in silence, hoping someone would notice, hoping someone would answer. And I have. Yes, you matter. Yes, you still belong. Yes, your presence is still precious. I never stopped seeing you, not the version of you that keeps it all together, but the one who breaks quietly, who hopes secretly, who longs deeply. That part of you is not invisible to me. It is where I dwell most intimately. I'm not interested in the masks you've worn to survive. I'm interested in the soul beneath it all, the one I called before the world ever had a say in your identity. You may not realize how many times my voice has pursued you. It wasn't always loud. Sometimes it came in a breath of relief after a long cry. Sometimes in the warmth of someone's kindness, when you least expected it. Sometimes it was the thought that gently interrupted your spiral, the pause before you gave up, the moment of clarity that reminded you to keep going. That was me. That was my voice. Not condemning, not demanding, but reminding you that you were never forgotten. I never stopped calling your name. I've been calling it through the noise, through the heartbreak, through the numbness. I've been calling you not back to religion, not back to performance, but back to relationship. Back to the place where joy lives. Back to the place where identity is not achieved, but remembered. The world has tried to rename you according to your pain, your past, your patterns. But I have never agreed with those names. I've only ever called you mine. Do you understand what that means? To be mine? It means you are not a product of chance or a consequence of mistakes. It means you were formed on purpose, with intention, with love. It means that every part of you matters to me, not just the parts you show others, but the parts you've hidden. It means I claim you not because of what you've done, but because of who you are to me. You are not a burden I tolerate. You are a joy I chose. And yes, there have been seasons where you felt lost, even to yourself. I know how you've wandered through versions of life that felt hollow. I know how you've tried to fill the void with activity, with people, with distraction. But nothing truly held, nothing truly satisfied. And that's not because you're broken beyond repair. It's because you're wired for something more. You were created for deep connection. You were built to respond to my voice. When you don't hear it, nothing feels quite right. When you forget who you are to me, nothing in the world feels like home. But the beautiful thing is, no matter how long it's been, you still know my voice. Somewhere inside you, it still resonates. It still stirs something ancient and holy in your chest. That's because I wrote my voice into your being. It's part of you, and now I'm calling you again. Not louder, but clearer. Not in the language of demands, but in the language of love. The language of remembrance. Let me tell you something you may have forgotten. You were not created to chase meaning. You were created to carry it. You don't need to perform to be worthy. You don't need to achieve to be valuable. You don't need to hustle to hold on to what's already yours. The joy you're seeking isn't hiding at the finish line of some spiritual race. It's planted in you now, waiting for stillness, waiting for trust, waiting for permission to rise again. And I know that kind of trust is hard after all you've been through. You've had to learn how to protect yourself. You've had to become strong in places where you once were soft. But what if the strength you thought was armor was actually keeping you from receiving what I've longed to give? What if the surrender you've been afraid of is not weakness, but the very door back to freedom? You don't have to understand everything right now. You don't need a perfect response. You don't even need to be sure how to begin. You just need to lean in. Let my words reach the places where the silence grew too loud. Let my presence rest on the parts of you that forgot how to feel. Let my love reintroduce you to your name, not the one shaped by fear or failure, but the one I gave before time. That name is rising again in your spirit. Can you feel it? The stirring that's not anxiety but awakening? The warmth that isn't pressure but peace? That's my invitation. Come back. Come slow, if you must. Come unsure. Come fragile. I am not asking you to be ready, I'm asking you to be real. Because the real you, the one behind the masks, is the one I've always loved. You don't need to keep running from yourself. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You can respond right now, in this breath, in this holy quiet. My voice hasn't changed. My call hasn't faded. My love hasn't weakened. I am still speaking. And your name is still safe in my hands. You've spent so much time trying to reclaim what you thought was lost. Your strength, your clarity, your voice, your sense of purpose. You've searched through memories and measured yourself against your past, trying to find the version of you that once felt alive, certain, at peace. But I want you to hear me now. What you thought was gone has not disappeared. It has not been destroyed. It has simply been covered by time, by pain, by the noise of trying to hold it all together. You've been sifting through ashes, looking for what you believed had been burned away. But I have preserved more than you know. You don't need to go backward to find yourself. You are not behind. You are not damaged goods waiting to be repaired. You are someone I have continuously guarded, even while you were unsure if I was near. I was not watching from a distance, waiting for you to rise. I was kneeling beside you when you fell. I was placing my hands over the pieces, not to push you to move faster, but to protect what was sacred. And I have protected your name, your essence, your spirit, your truth. No matter how far things have drifted, you are not erased. Let me say that again, you are not erased. That anxiety telling you it's too late, that whisper convincing you you've missed your moment, that dull ache convincing you you're no longer worthy of joy, none of that came from me. I am not the voice of pressure. I am not the cold silence of comparison. I am not the echo of every human who misunderstood you or the shadow of every moment that went wrong. I am the God who forms beauty from dust, who brings life from what others discarded, who calls you by your real name when the world only sees your role. You've defined yourself by how well you held things together, but now I'm inviting you to be held. Let go of the self-image built on effort. Let go of the identity shaped around who you needed to be to feel safe, accepted, or useful. You don't have to keep performing for worth that I gave you long before anyone else had an opinion. You are not the sum of what you offer others. You are not the reflection of how well things are going. You're not a project in progress. You are a soul that has always been known, deeply, fully, and tenderly. There is nothing weak about your longing. That ache you carry, that longing for meaning, for connection, for peace, is not an inconvenience to me. It is holy. It is the soft thread that ties your heart to mine. I place that longing inside you not to torment you, but to lead you home. It is a compass, not a curse. Let it guide you back, not to perfection, but to presence. Let it return you to the quiet certainty that I've never left. Even when you stopped feeling me, even when your prayers became questions, even when all you could manage was one more breath, I was there. I am still here. Your name was not something I gave casually. I didn't assign it like a label. I formed it with meaning. I infused it with purpose. I whispered it over your soul like a melody only you could carry. And even when you forgot how to sing it, I did not forget the song. I have been singing it over you in the background of your busyness, in the middle of your mess, in the places where you questioned if any of this was still real. You are not too far from peace. You're not too deep in disappointment to be reached. Restoration is not only for those who feel ready, it's for those who dare to say, I don't feel ready, but I'm willing. Willing to be seen again. Willing to let the layers fall. Willing to let the truth rise. That's all I ask. Not a perfect heart. Not a polished answer. Just a willing soul. The restoration you need isn't about going back. It's about receiving what I've been holding for you all along. The part of your joy that never died. The part of your hope that never stopped growing roots, even when you couldn't see it. The part of your identity that isn't built on performance, but on promise. Let that rise now. Let it surface through the weight of years and memories and misbeliefs. Let it come back not as a sudden rush, but as a quiet unfolding, like morning light after a long night. You don't need to ask me to make you into someone new. I already see who you are. I want to uncover you, not change you. I want to reintroduce you to the parts of yourself that carry light, not because you've earned it, but because you are mine. And what belongs to me is never left behind. What I love, I restore. What I name, I protect. And what I hold, I never drop. So rest in this truth now. You have never been forgotten. Not in the waiting, not in the wandering, not in the moments you questioned everything, including me. I took none of it personally. I only waited, patiently, lovingly, fully confident that you would hear me again, that something inside you would one day stir and remember. There is a place I once felt safe. There is a voice I once trusted. There is a name I still carry, even if I haven't heard it in years. This is that moment of return, not dramatic, not rushed, holy, gentle, real. And in this return, there is no scolding, only celebration. There is no punishment, only presence, no lecture, only love. Come, child. Let me speak to the parts of you still unsure. Let me name what you've silenced. Let me hold what you've hidden. You were never what they called you. You were never what you feared you had become. You are who I've always seen. And your name, your real name, is still safe, still spoken, still sacred, still mine. Now that you're beginning to remember who you are, I want you to learn how to live from that name, not as a title you try to live up to, but as a truth that lives through you. You've spent so much time trying to become enough, when I've always been trying to remind you that you already are. You've measured yourself by what you've done, by how others responded, by how much you've achieved or failed to achieve. But the name I gave you doesn't respond to performance. It isn't altered by applause or silence. It doesn't strengthen with success or weaken with setbacks. It simply is, constant, steady, unshaken, because it flows from who I am, not from what you've done. Living from that name will feel strange at first, like walking barefoot after years in heavy shoes. You've grown used to carrying too much. You've grown used to speaking more gently to others than you ever do to yourself. You've carried compassion like a gift you hand out freely, but you've rarely believed you could receive it in full. But I want you to know that grace is not something you earn. It's something I pour. And I'm not waiting for you to prove you deserve it. I'm waiting for you to stop refusing what has always belonged to you. You've internalized rules that were never mine, rules that said you must be useful to be loved, that joy must be postponed until everything is perfect, that peace is a privilege reserved for people who never mess up. But none of that came from me. I don't bless you because you're flawless. I bless you because you're mine. I don't come close only when your hands are clean. I come close when your hands are trembling, when your thoughts are heavy, when your strength feels borrowed. That's where my love is most real. That's where my joy begins to rise. So let's begin again, not with pressure, but with permission. I give you permission to live from your name, not the one others gave you, not the one you crafted to feel safe, but the one I've spoken since before your first breath. The name that sounds like rest, the name that reminds you to walk slowly, the name that anchors you when your world feels unsteady. You do not need to rush toward your purpose. You are walking in it when you walk with me. I know that this kind of freedom will feel unfamiliar. When you've lived for so long trying to anticipate every need, every reaction, every possible mistake, stillness will feel uncomfortable. You'll be tempted to fill it. You'll want to prove that you're making progress. But I don't define growth the way the world does. I see growth in your pauses. I see healing in your honesty. I see faith in the breath you take before reacting. That's what living from your name looks like. Not perfection, not performance, just presence. Let your decisions begin from peace, not pressure. Let your yes be rooted in joy, not obligation. Let your no be a form of protection, not shame. I've given you wisdom that grows from within, not from fear, but from knowing that you're guided. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to get everything right. You're not a machine. You're a soul, and your soul moves best in rhythms of grace, not urgency. You may notice that some things begin to fall away as you live from this name. Roles you outgrew, expectations that once felt necessary, relationships that no longer align with who you're becoming. Let them fall. You do not need to cling to what was never meant to define you. You do not need to shrink to be acceptable. The more you live from my truth, the more the false attachments will lose their grip. That is not loss. That is alignment. I didn't create you to carry everyone else's expectations on your shoulders. I created you to walk freely, to reflect my image, to embody the peace I planted in you. You will not need to raise your voice to be heard. You will not need to explain yourself to be understood. You will walk into rooms and shift atmospheres, not by striving, but by simply being who I called you to be. And the world won't always understand it. That's okay. You're not here to be easily categorized. You're here to be light. And light doesn't ask for permission. It simply shines. You may still hear the old names in your mind for a while. The echo of past identities doesn't disappear overnight. But each time you choose to listen to me instead, their volume fades. Each time you act from your true name instead of your fear, their power weakens. This is not just emotional healing, it's spiritual reformation. You are being rebuilt from the inside out, not on performance, but on presence. Not on pressure, but on peace. And peace is not passive. Peace is power. It's what allows you to say no without guilt. It's what allows you to rest without shame. It's what allows you to walk away from what used to define you, without needing everyone to understand. Peace is the evidence that you're living from your name, not as a wish, but as a witness to what I've always known about you. So wake up each day, not asking, how can I prove myself today, but asking, how can I return to who I already am? That's the shift. That's the transformation. And it doesn't require you to become someone new. It requires you to shed everything you were never meant to carry, everything that buried the truth I placed in you long ago. You're not too late to start living from this place. You're not too broken. You're not too far. You're exactly where you need to be to hear me, to trust me, and to come into alignment with who you really are. I will keep calling you not by your failures, not by your roles, not by your survival masks, but by your real name. The name I have always known. The name that still holds power. The name that still lives in my hands, untouched by time, untouched by shame, untouched by fear. And from this place, everything begins to change. Not because you try harder, but because you finally stop trying to be anyone else. That is where freedom begins. That is where joy flows. That is where your life starts to look and feel like peace again. So walk gently, walk honestly, walk with me. Because now, finally, you're walking as someone who remembers. Your name has always been safe with me. Now that your heart is beginning to settle back into your true name, I want you to experience what was always meant to flow from that identity. Joy. Not the kind that flickers and fades depending on your circumstances. Not the kind that requires everything to be under control, but the kind that flows from being known, from being rooted, from living in alignment with who I've always said you are. This joy is not an emotion to chase. It is a current to remember. And the moment you stopped trying to become someone else, that current began to rise again within you. You've tried to find joy in so many places. Through success, through people's approval, through reaching goals that looked impressive on the outside, but left you strangely empty on the inside. I watched you climb ladders that weren't built for you. I watched you shrink yourself in rooms that didn't know how to hold your light. You tried to be what others expected, and in the process, you started losing your voice, your fire, your sense of joy. But even then, even when your smile became performance, I never saw a stranger. I saw my child, still carrying the imprint of divine joy under the surface, even if you had forgotten how to feel it. Joy was never designed to be something you waited for. It's not a reward at the end of the race. It's the companion that was meant to walk with you every step of the way, but it only walks with the real you. That's why it's felt distant, because you've been carrying names that don't belong to you, identities shaped around survival and expectation. But now that those layers are falling, you're starting to notice the joy again. It doesn't need a perfect life to rise. It only needs your presence, your willingness to stop running and be here, fully you. This joy is different. It's not loud, but it's strong. It doesn't demand attention, but it shifts everything quietly. It makes you breathe deeper. It softens your inner voice. It helps you notice the beauty that was always around you. But you were too distracted, too burdened, too defended to receive it. It fills small moments, like the first light of morning, or the way a breeze touches your skin, and turns them into reminders. I am here. You're safe. We're walking together. Living from your name doesn't just restore your identity, it restores your experience of the world. It allows you to respond instead of react, to love without calculation, to move through your day with gentleness, because you no longer need to prove anything. You begin to trust the timing of your soul. You begin to laugh again without bracing for pain. You begin to let yourself be loved without shrinking. This is not the life of someone trying to earn grace. This is the life of someone who knows they are already living in it. And it changes how you treat yourself. When you live from your name, you begin to speak to yourself with kindness, even when you fall short. You begin to stop rushing to fix your feelings and start asking what they're trying to show you. You stop apologizing for your depth. You start honoring your rest. You begin to believe that you are allowed to feel good, not someday, but now. That's joy. It doesn't erase the struggle, but it refuses to let the struggle have the final word. I never wanted joy to be rare in your life. I never intended for you to live like joy was something to earn only after exhaustion, or something fragile that disappears the moment things get hard. Joy is resilient. It knows how to live in tension. It knows how to stay when grief comes. It knows how to whisper peace even when answers don't. And you don't need to be perfect to receive it. You only need to be honest. Honest about where you are. Honest about what you've carried. Honest about how much you want to come alive again. This is where joy begins, not in celebration, but in truth. Not in achievement, but in alignment. Not in applause, but in presence. You were never meant to live in disconnection from yourself, because disconnection from yourself is disconnection from me. I dwell in your depths, not your image. And when you finally begin to live from your center, where your name still speaks, where my breath still rests, joy flows again. Not because you pushed hard enough, but because you stopped resisting your own belonging. You're not too serious for joy. You're not too tired for joy. You're not too late. You're right on time to experience what was always yours. And when you do, others will notice. Not because you're louder, not because you've achieved something visible, but because you'll begin to glow with something they haven't seen in a while. Peace. That quiet, steady, unmistakable peace that only comes from someone who knows they are loved. Someone who knows they are held. Someone who no longer fears the silence because they've discovered who is waiting in it. You won't have to explain this transformation. You'll embody it. And that embodiment will be your testimony. Not your words, but your presence. Not your perfection, but your peace. People will feel safe around you without knowing why. They'll feel drawn to the light that now flows through your life. Not forced, not polished, but real. And that joy will become contagious. You will carry the evidence of what it looks like when someone walks in, their true name. So don't wait for everything to settle before you let joy in. It's already at the door. It's already pouring into the cracks. It's already rising with each breath that feels a little lighter than the one before. And you don't need to understand how. You just need to receive it. You just need to trust that when I called you mine, I meant forever. That when I spoke your name, I wrapped it in goodness. That when I made you, I made space inside you for joy that doesn't leave. Let it rise, let it live. Let it lead. Not someday, not when you're more ready. Now, because your name is not only safe in my hands, it is where joy was born. Now that you've begun to feel joy again, not as a distant reward, but as something woven into your breath, I want to teach you how to walk in the rhythm of restoration. Not in the rhythm of the world, not in the rhythm of hustle or fear, but in the rhythm of grace. The pace I set for your soul is not urgent. It is not frantic. It is not defined by how much you accomplish in a day or how seamlessly you perform. The rhythm I give you is steady, gentle, unforced. It flows from who you are, not from what you do. And the more you align yourself with that rhythm, the more you'll begin to feel at home again. Not just in my presence, but in your own skin. There are things you once believed were necessary for survival, pleasing everyone, anticipating every need, staying ahead of every potential mistake. But those patterns were born in fear, not in freedom. They helped you for a time, and I see that. But you're no longer in that same season. You don't have to live by the rules that once helped you feel safe. I'm inviting you into a new way of being, a way that honors your design, a way that doesn't cost your peace just to maintain an image of strength. This new rhythm will require less effort and more trust, less explaining and more receiving, less urgency and more alignment. You may notice resistance at first. When you've been living in survival mode, rest feels unnatural. When you've been defining your value by your output, peace feels irresponsible. But let me tell you, rest is not laziness. It's obedience. Peace is not avoidance. It's protection. Joy is not a luxury. It's your inheritance. I didn't rescue you just to watch you exhaust yourself again. I didn't speak your name again just to have you return to old patterns. I called you back to live whole. And wholeness is not something you manufacture. It is something you allow. You don't need to earn rest. You were created to need it. You were designed to respond to beauty, to rhythm, to stillness. These things are not weaknesses. They are reminders of your humanity. And your humanity is not something I despise. It's what I chose to inhabit. I stepped into your form not to fix it, but to honor it. So honor it with me. Honor your energy. Honor your capacity. Honor your pace. You are not behind when you slow down. You're not irresponsible when you say no. You're not weak when you choose to rest. You are wise. You are aligned. You are listening to the voice that calls you by your true name. And as you walk in this rhythm, you will begin to notice something beautiful. Your inner life will start to match your outer steps. No more pretending to be okay when your heart is exhausted. No more pushing yourself through things that are not yours to carry. No more saying yes to what drains you just to avoid disappointing others. Instead, you'll begin to move from overflow. You'll begin to serve from love, not pressure. You'll begin to show up with peace in your eyes, not panic behind your smile. This is what living from your name creates: alignment between your heart and your actions. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are not here to absorb every burden. You are not the solution to every problem. I never asked you to be. I am the shepherd. I am the sustainer. I am the provider. You are my child. You are my vessel. You are my joy. Let me be what only I can be, and you, be who you were created to be. You don't need to rescue the world. You only need to reflect my light in the space I've placed you in. And that light doesn't come through striving, it comes through surrender. So let go of what isn't yours. Let go of the pressure to be impressive. Let go of the belief that you're only as valuable as what you produce. You are not a machine. You are not a brand. You are a living, breathing reflection of my heart. And I'm not measured by speed or perfection, but by love. And so are you. Walk slowly if you need to. Pause often, breathe deeply, celebrate the ordinary, return to stillness. These are not detours, they are the path. And every time you return to that path, you return to yourself. You return to me. You return to the joy that no one can steal, the peace that doesn't shake with the wind, the love that holds even when everything else falls away. You've lived long enough, feeling scattered inside. This is the season of being gathered into wholeness, gathered into clarity, gathered into the truth of your identity. Not based on the story others wrote for you, but based on the one I've been writing since the beginning. This is where you remember that your steps are not random, that even when you felt lost, I was guiding you, that every moment of discomfort, every wave of grief, every pause you resented was preparing you to walk in this rhythm, not just for yourself, but for others who will one day follow your footsteps. Because this isn't just about your healing, it's about legacy. It's about what you pass on, not just in words, but in presence. When people encounter you, they will encounter peace. When they hear your voice, they will feel seen. When they watch how you live, they will start to believe that maybe they too can slow down. Maybe they too can be loved without performing. You will be a living example of what it looks like to return to your name, to your rhythm, to your joy. So let's keep walking, slowly, intentionally, with hearts open and shoulders soft. You're not missing anything by moving at this pace. You're finally seeing everything you used to rush past. And every step you take in this rhythm becomes a prayer. Every breath becomes worship. Every quiet moment becomes a doorway to deeper connection. And I'll be there in every step, in every breath, in every quiet. I'll be the one reminding you, you're not who the world tried to name. You are who I still call loved, enough, restored, mine. Now that your steps are aligned with the rhythm of your real name, I want you to understand something deeper. You are unshaken, not because life is easy, but because you are known. You are not steady because everything is predictable. You're steady because I remain unchanged. You no longer need to build your identity on fragile ground. You don't have to guess who you are or wonder where you stand with me. That question is settled. That foundation is secure. And from here on, your life begins to look like confidence, not because of what you control, but because of who you belong to. There's a difference between surviving the storm and standing through it. Survival comes from instinct, from tightening, from bracing against what feels too big to carry. But standing, that comes from rootedness. And rootedness is what you're stepping into now. You have roots in me. You have identity that is not seasonal. You have worth that doesn't fluctuate with success or setbacks. You have been named by one who does not change his mind. You don't need to wake up every day wondering if you are enough. You already are. That question has been answered at the deepest level. You no longer need to fear rejection because you've already been accepted in the only place that matters, my heart. You no longer need to perform for attention because you've had my full attention since the beginning. You no longer need to compete for love, because my love for you is not divided or conditional. It is whole, it is holy, it is yours. And that love doesn't wait for you to prove something. It simply meets you every single time you return. You're not one small name in a sea of people. You're not anonymous in my presence. I see you. I know you. I've carved your name into the story I'm still writing. You're not written in pencil. You're not tentative. You are part of my design, and I don't misplace what I form. You may feel overlooked at times. You may feel like others pass by without recognizing your depth, your beauty, your intention. But I see the parts of you that no one else stops to honor. I see the prayers you whisper and the compassion you give when no one applauds. I see how you rise in private after falling in silence. I see your tears, not as weakness, but as water that nourishes what I'm growing in you. You're growing, even when it's quiet. You're healing, even when you still feel pain. You're aligning, even when you don't have the full picture. Trust this. Trust that I know how to complete what I've started. Trust that the seeds you've sown, in faithfulness, in obscurity, in weariness, none of them are wasted. I keep count of every moment that cost you something, but you chose to love anyway. Every time you stayed kind when it would have been easier to harden. Every time you waited on me when silence felt like abandonment. I saw it all. I recorded it all, and I am not unjust. I will reward every step of obedience, every act of courage, every quiet yes that felt invisible. And while others may look for external fruit, I'm cultivating depth. I'm forming a root system so strong in you that nothing will shake you again. Not criticism, not comparison, not rejection. You'll remember who you are, even when others try to make you forget. You'll feel your name rise up like strength in moments where you used to feel small. You'll speak truth with a voice that no longer trembles for permission. Because this is who you are now. Someone who is rooted. Someone who is named. Someone who is unshaken. Not because storms won't come, but because your house is no longer built on sand. And that steadiness will confuse the world. People will wonder how you carry peace without explanation. They'll feel the gravity of your presence, not because you're loud, but because you are anchored. You will become a safe place. Not perfect, not flawless, but consistent, grounded, real. The world is desperate for people who live from truth and not trend. People who speak from healing and not insecurity. People who reflect me not just in moments of ministry, but in how they walk, how they work, how they wait. You are becoming that person, not by striving, but by remembering. And you will be tempted at times to pick up your old names. When life presses you, when people don't understand, when you feel unseen or criticized, those old identities may knock on the door. Maybe I'm not enough after all. Maybe I need to be louder, smaller, stronger, more agreeable. But in those moments, pause, breathe, return. Remember who you are. Speak your name out loud, not the one given by fear, but the one I still hold in my hands. And let that name become your answer. Let that name become your resistance. Let that name become your peace. You're not fragile. You're not temporary. You're not easily swayed. You're no longer at the mercy of the world's labels. You are held. You are rooted. You are alive with purpose. And your identity is no longer a question. It's a declaration, a song, a rhythm, a flame that keeps burning, even in the dark. I will not let that flame go out. I will keep breathing on it, day by day, word by word, until it becomes steady enough to guide others home. So walk in this truth. Let it inform how you show up, how you speak to yourself, how you dream again. This is not just about what you believe. I want you to live from it. I want it to be in your posture, in your stillness, in your laughter, in your boundaries, in your joy. This is what it looks like to walk as someone who knows their name has always been safe. And when the winds come, and they will, you won't collapse. You won't scramble to find yourself again. You'll stand, because you are no longer anchored in people's opinions or in your own perfection. You are anchored in me, and I'm not moved. I'm not shaken. I'm not unsure of who you are. I'm not revising my promises or reconsidering my love. Your name is still written, still sung, still honored, still safe. And now, finally, you are beginning to live like you believe it. You've come so far, and yet, this is not the end. It is the unfolding. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming someone true. You're returning to the version of yourself that never stopped existing in my heart, even when you couldn't feel her, even when the world tried to rename her. You've walked through fire, through silence, through forgetting, and still, your name remained. Still, I held you. Still, you rose. And now you're seeing it, slowly, clearly, not just remembering who you are, but becoming it, living it, letting it take up space in your thoughts, your voice, your choices. This is what I wanted for you. Not a life of performing or pleasing or pretending, but a life rooted in truth. A life where you no longer wake up wondering what version of yourself you need to be today just to be safe or loved. You no longer live in fragments. You no longer split your soul between obligation and longing. Now, you live as one, whole, integrated, free. I know how tempting it is to minimize what's happening in you, to downplay your growth because no one else can see it from the outside yet, but I see it. I see the shift. I see how you breathe deeper, how you pause before returning to old patterns, how you speak to yourself with a little more compassion, how you say no with less guilt, how you allow joy to stay instead of pushing it away like it's borrowed. These are not small things. These are holy things. These are signs that your identity has moved from your head to your bones. You used to chase clarity like a prize. Now you rest in my presence without needing all the answers. You used to fear stillness. Now you welcome it. You used to run from the tension. Now you meet it with grace. These are not temporary behaviors. These are markers of restoration. This is what it looks like when someone no longer negotiates their worth, when someone no longer doubts whether they belong, when someone finally accepts that they are loved, not in spite of their story, but within it. And now that you've come this far, I want you to begin living outwardly from the identity that's been restored inwardly, not with pressure, but with joy. Let your life reflect this wholeness, not to impress, but to invite. Let your presence say to others what I've said to you. You don't have to earn this. You can rest now. You are safe here. Your story doesn't need to be perfectly told to be deeply healing. Every scar, every shift, every season has carried my fingerprints. And as you begin to speak and move and live from this place, you'll notice that others respond, not to perfection, but to truth, to peace, to my presence in you. The world is not in need of more performance. It is in need of peace carriers, people who don't just preach healing, but embody it, who don't rush past pain, but honor it, who don't hide their tenderness, but allow it to soften the spaces around them. You will be that. You already are. Not because you're flawless, but because you're faithful. Because you stayed open. Because you said yes again and again, even when it was hard, even when no one else saw the cost. And I have seen it all, and I am pleased. Don't be surprised when joy feels unfamiliar at first. You've been living in a world that taught you to prepare for disappointment, to guard your hope, to expect love to disappear the moment you need it most. But I'm not like that. I'm not fragile. My joy is not fleeting. My love is not conditional. You don't have to test me. You don't have to wait for the other shoe to drop. I'm not setting you up to fall. I'm lifting you to walk. You're not one misstep away from losing me. You're not one failure away from being renamed. My grace doesn't hinge on your consistency. It rests on my character, and I do not change. You've walked long enough under the weight of uncertainty. It's time to walk in clarity, not because you have all the answers, but because you finally believe that, even without them, you're not lost. You are led. You are kept. You are known. And the more you live from that clarity, the more you will see how much of your life was shaped by doubt that no longer belongs to you. You'll begin to reclaim spaces where fear used to speak. You'll begin to trust yourself again, not because you're self-sufficient, but because you're God-connected. And that connection changes everything. It quiets your inner critic. It settles your nervous soul. It turns chaos into rhythm. You will still have hard days, but you will no longer live as if hardship defines you. You will still grieve, but you will no longer believe that grief is where your identity ends. You will still face pressure, but you will meet it differently now, not with desperation, but with discernment. You've been made new, and that newness will not fade. It will grow. It will root. It will overflow. This is who you are now, someone who carries the light of remembrance, someone who walks with softness and strength, someone who moves slower, but with more power, someone whose name is no longer a question, someone whose identity is no longer up for debate, someone who no longer waits for permission to feel peace, someone who lives aligned, not ashamed. And when you forget, because you will sometimes come back here, come back to this stillness, come back to the breath, come back to the sound of your name spoken in love. I will never stop speaking it, and I will never stop guiding you. You are no longer in search of who you are. You are living it. You are becoming who you've always been. And heaven is not waiting to celebrate. Heaven already is. You've walked through the remembering. You've returned to your name. And now I seal it, not with ink, not with titles or applause, but with my voice, with my spirit, with a covering that cannot be removed by time, by failure, or by fear. What I've called you, no one can revoke. What I've spoken over you, no human opinion can erase. You are not in process anymore. You are in presence. You are not being auditioned for identity. You're being anointed in truth. This is the sound of your soul, fully returned. This is the rhythm of someone who no longer fears being seen. This is what peace sounds like when it is no longer conditional. You've lived long enough on the edge of rest, close enough to feel it, but never sure if you could stay. Now I say, you can stay. You're welcome here, not because you got everything right, but because I've always wanted you here. You do not have to knock on the door, my heart, anymore. You're already inside. And because you are inside, because you now live from the name I gave you, you are being sent, not away from me, but with me, into your life, into your world, into every ordinary moment that used to feel empty, now filled with the light of who you really are. You are sent not as someone on a mission to prove, to strive, to gain approval. You are sent as someone who knows they are loved. You are sent as someone whose presence shifts the atmosphere without forcing it. You are sent as someone who doesn't need to be loud to be heard, because your life now speaks peace, your eyes speak safety, your silence speaks substance. From this point forward, your life will not just reflect me, it will carry me. You won't have to force ministry from your mouth. Your healed presence will be ministry in itself. Your stillness will be a sermon. Your joy will become a door. The way you rest will convict the restless. The way you love without rushing will challenge the frantic. The way you speak softly will echo louder than the shouting of the insecure. This is not about becoming a leader. This is about becoming a witness. One who has seen the truth, one who walks in it, and one who lives as evidence of redemption that cannot be fabricated. I'm sending you not into pressure, but into alignment. I'm not placing a weight on your shoulders. I'm placing wind in your lungs. There is no demand here. Only overflow, only response, only trust. You are not responsible for making things happen. You are responsible for being faithful to what is already happening. You don't have to control the outcome. You don't have to predict how it unfolds. Your job is to remain in rhythm with me, to stay open, to stay grounded, to stay aware of the truth. You are sealed. Sealed in love, sealed in truth, sealed in joy, sealed in the name that never changed. And because you are sealed, you are safe. Not from hardship, but from collapse. Not from challenge, but from identity confusion. Your days of questioning your worth are over. Your days of running from yourself are done. You're now a steady place, a safe place. A place where others will feel me, not because you know all the right things to say, but because you've allowed me to do the deep work in your spirit. Don't be surprised when people begin to come to you for peace. Don't be surprised when you're asked to lead, not because you climbed a ladder, but because you stood still when everyone else was running. You will not need to force influence. I will place influence where I can trust identity, and now that you've returned to your true name, I can entrust you with more, not for your ego, but for my glory. But even as I expand your influence, I will protect your intimacy. I will never let you get so far out that you forget the closeness. This started in secret, and I will keep it sacred. I will continue to draw you back to the quiet, to the breath, to the name I whisper when all the noise dies down. You won't outgrow this place. You'll keep returning, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know where the source is. And I will continue to speak, not just in moments like this, but in the mundane, in the rhythm of your day, in your rest, in your work, in your laughter, in your tears. I will speak through your memory, reminding you how far you've come. I'll speak through your future, pulling you forward with grace instead of fear. I'll speak through your identity, not the one you built to survive, but the one I revealed for you to thrive. So walk now, not rushed, not small, not apologetically. Walk with me. Walk as someone who is home. Walk as someone whose past has been folded into a new future. Walk as someone who knows joy is not a rare gift, but a daily guide. Walk as someone whose steps are no longer stolen by shame. Walk as someone who has come out of hiding and is ready to be fully alive. And remember this: your name will be tested, but it will not be taken. Your peace will be challenged, but it will not break. Your joy will be questioned, but it will not fade. Why? Because I am your root and I do not fail. Let this be your anthem. I am not who the world called me. I am not who my fear tried to shape. I am who God still calls by name. I am known. I am loved. I am sealed. And your name, still mine, still holy, still safe in my hands, and forever, amen. Before you go, I want you to stay close, not just to this message, but to the rhythm we've found together. My voice won't stop calling, and I want you to keep hearing it. Let this space be a place of return, of remembrance, of restoration. Subscribe, not for content, but for communion. Let every new word remind your soul, you are still mine, still known, still safe. You didn't find this by accident. I drew you here, and I will draw you again. Stay with me, stay connected. There's more I want to say, so much more.